welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for coming back and clicking on this video to watch it. So today's video is a very important and interesting one. As some of you might know, there are new rules now in Canada for international students. So if you're an international student, this video is very, very important to you. And even if you're not, it's important as well because you probably have friends that are international students and you might want to share this video with them. It's very important that they know this. So this link this site is from the IRCC website. It contains the new rules that is going to be implemented in Canada. It's already been implemented actually. It started in January, right? So let's go through it very carefully. We're going to go through it together and very carefully, right? So news release. Now, this was released on the 22nd of January 2024 in Ottawa, right? So it says that international students enrich our communities and are a critical part of Canada's social, cultural, and economic fabric. Now, in recent years, the integrity of the international students has been threatened. Some institutions have significantly increased their intakes to drive revenues, and most students have been arriving in Canada without the proper support they need to succeed. Now, rapid increase in the number of international students arriving in Canada also puts pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services. As we work to better protect international students from bad actors and supports sustainable population growth in Canada, the government is moving forward with measures to stabilize the number of international students in Canada. Now, the Honorable Mark Miller, Minister of Immigration, that's basically IRCC, announced today that the government of Canada will set an intake cap. Now, this is very important. Will set an intake cap on international student permit application to stabilize new growth for a period of 2 years. So they're going to reduce the number for the next 2 years, right? Now, for 2024, the cap is expected to result in approximately 360,000 approved study permits. That's a decrease of 35% from 2023. So they're going to decrease the number of study permits by 35% from last year. So in the spirit of fairness, individual, provincial, and territorial caps have been established, right? Weighted by population, which will result in much more significant decreases in provinces where the international student population has seen the most unsustainable growth. Study permit renewals will not be impacted. Right now, this is very important. Now, if you are in Canada, renewals will not be impacted. It's only the ones that are coming for the first time. It says that study permit renewals will not be impacted, meaning that it won't be affected, right? Just put your mind at rest if you're in Canada right now. It says those pursuing master's and doctoral degrees and elementary and secondary educations are not included in the cap. So if you're pursuing masters, if you want to come for your master's or a PhD, it says elementary and secondary education are not in the cap. So they are not going to be affected, right? That's what it means. And the current study permit holders, again, they are saying it, that current study permit holders will not be affected. So it doesn't apply to those that are currently holding a study permit. If you're in Canada with a study permit right now, this doesn't apply to you from what I'm understanding, right? It is for people that are coming in for the first time or newly, right? So it says IRCC will allocate a portion of the cap to each province and territory. So each province will have their own allocated number that they can get in, right? Who will then distribute the allocation among their designated learning institutions, DLI, right? Now, to implement the cap, as of January 22, 2024, every study permit application submitted to IRCC will also require an attestation letter from a province or territory. Now, if you're watching my video right now and you are thinking of applying for a study permit and you haven't done it before this date, look at this very carefully. It means that IRCC, now if you see in IRCC that they're asking for something called an attestation letter from your province or your territory, do not be surprised because this wasn't there before. I might have made a video in the past where this wasn't mentioned. My videos you might go through my videos and you might see something like that. You don't see me mention this. it wasn't applicable before, but now as of January 22nd of this year, 2024, every study permit application submitted to IRCC will require what? An attestation letter from the province or territory. So whatever province you're applying to, depending on the university, there's something called an attestation letter. I'm not sure what that is, right? So let's go ahead. Provinces and territories are expected to establish a process, right, for issuing attestation letters to students by no later than March 31st, 2024. So they are talking to all the schools now that people would apply to. So they will need to bring up a system where they can give out these attestation letters to the students to submit to IRCC, right? So I guess maybe it's going to still delay till March 31st before they would, start accepting it. I don't know. But as of January 22nd, this letter is required for people coming for study permits. Now, these temporary measures will be in place for 2 years. Now, it will be in place from 2024 till 2026 or otherwise stated, right? And the numbers of new study permit applications that would be accepted in 2025 will be reassessed at the end of this year, right? So it might change next year, we don't know. But for now, this is what they want. So during this period, the government of Canada, right, will continue to work with provinces and territories, designated learning institutions, and national education stakeholders on developing a sustainable path forward for international students, including finalizing a recognized institution framework, determining long-term sustainable levels of international students, and ensuring post-secondary institutions are able to provide adequate levels of student housing. So basically, they're saying that students are coming they're coming in a flock. They're coming too much, and because of that, there are no adequate student housing, adequate healthcare system, adequate economic things, I guess, for everyone, right? Because there are lots of international students coming in, and that's why they're putting this measure, this cap and this ban, right? So in order to better align for the post-graduation work permit program, now this is for people that this is for work permits now, right? Now, in order to better align for the post-graduation work permit program, we are changing the eligibility criteria. Now, starting September 1st, 2024, which is this year, international students who begin a study program that is part of a curriculum licensing arrangement will no longer be eligible for the PGWP upon graduation. So basically, it's saying that if you're doing a curriculum licensing arrangement, I'm not sure what that is. If your program sounds like that, unfortunately, as of beginning from September 1st, you will not be eligible for the PGWP, which is a work permit that you get after graduation, right? Now, under curriculum licensing agreement, students physically attend a private college that has been licensed to deliver the curriculum of an associated public college. Basically, what this curriculum licensing arrangement, I think, is basically people that attend the private college. These programs have seen significant growth in attracting international students in recent years, though they have less oversight than public colleges, and they act as a loophole with regards to PGWP eligibility. So basically, it's saying that people that attend private college, right, that's a way that people come into Canada, basically, right? So private college, I think, is more, I guess, it's maybe like people that come to do maybe like a diploma course or maybe just 1 year. I don't know what they do in private college. I don't know. So if that sounds like what your program, basically, then you might want to look into that, right? Because they found out that this private college, people use it to come into Canada, or people just come in so they can work. They come in, spend 1 year or 2 years or whatever in a private college, and then they just quickly just do their work permits. So basically, I think that if you're in a private college, I'm not sure if they're saying that you cannot apply for a PGWP, but just take note of that, right? So do more of your research. So for what I understood here is people that are attending private colleges might not be eligible for a PGWP starting from September 1st, 2024. So it says graduates of master's degree program will soon be eligible to apply for a 3-year work permit. Now, if you're a graduate of a master's degree program, it says they will soon be eligible, right, to apply for a 3-year work permit. Under current criteria, the length of a post-graduation work permit is based solely on the length of an individual study program, hindering master's graduates by limiting the amount of time they have to gain work experience and potentially transition to permanent residence. So let me understand what they're saying here. So let's take that again, all right? So now it says that graduates of master's degree program will soon be eligible to apply for a 3-year work permit. So that means that this 3-year work permit wasn't there before. They said they will soon be eligible to apply for that, right? So that means now that that's a good thing, right? That means they can have more time to work, basically, right? So it says under current criteria. So that's what is happening right now, is that the length of the PGWP is based solely on the length of an individual study program. So I'm guessing that the length of the PGWP they give people is based on the length of the study program that they are doing. So if you're doing a 2-year master's, the PGWP would be 2 years. They wouldn't give person past that program, right? And this has hindered master's program or master's graduates. It says hindering master's graduates by limiting the amount of time they have to gain work experience and potentially transition to permanent residence. So yeah, from what I'm understanding now, they're going to extend the time for the PGWP for master's degree holders, right? So in the weeks ahead, it says open work permits would only be available to spouses of international students in the master's and doctoral program. The spouses of international students in other level of study, including undergraduate and college programs, will no longer be eligible. So if you're someone now that you're doing a master's or a PhD and you want your spouse to come, they are good. They have open work permits, but open work permit is no longer available to those spouses that belong to people that are doing undergraduate programs or college programs, unfortunately. So maybe they are eligible for closed work permits, but not open work permits, right? Take note of that. If you're someone that had probably are looking to bring your spouse as an undergraduate student, just look into what they can come in. They can come in as PR instead of work permit, right? There are other options, right? But for open work permits, in the weeks ahead, meaning that in the coming weeks, we don't know when that's going to happen, but they will tell us when they will implement it. In the weeks ahead, open work permits will only be available to the spouses of those that are doing master's and doctoral programs. Now, let's go ahead. It says the important measures announced today complement other recently announced reforms to the international student program. Taken together, they aim to ensure genuine students receive the support they require and have the resources they need for an enriching study experience in Canada, while at the same time stabilizing the overall number of students arriving and alleviating pressures on housing, healthcare, and other services in Canada. So they are basically trying to protect the country, Canada, right, by doing this, right? And international students does not apply to just Nigeria. Because I'm in Nigeria and I think of Nigeria when I think of international students. It applies to everybody. So if you're in India, if you're in Iran, if you're in Egypt, whatever country you're coming from into Canada, this applies to everybody, right? So basically they want to reduce the number of international students because they found out that some are not genuine. Some are coming to do 1-year program and then get those things that they would prove that they're supposed to be for students that are spending more than 1 year, students that are there for 4 years, 5 years. We don't enjoy it because people that are coming from 1 year are taking it. Stuff like that, right? So it is just to protect the country. It's sad in some part because it might reduce the number of people that are coming in, but it's for the betterment of Canada, I would say, right? So if you're someone that wants to come to study, just look for other means there's master's program. You can come as an undergraduate, right? There's still undergrad program, there's master's program. They just want to restrict most of the things that they found that people are just misusing, basically, right? So that's why this is coming in, why this is happening. But if you're in Canada, again, this doesn't affect you, right? If you're in Canada now again, if you're in Canada, the thing for the cap, they're talking about this one. Remember, if you're in Canada, the cap doesn't affect you, right? They said that current study permit holders will not be affected, right? Remember that. But again, this would apply to people already in Canada as well, right? If you're in Canada already and you're doing your undergraduate program, in the coming weeks, they might start to implement this where you can't, if you have a spouse, if you're an undergrad person, you might not be able to bring your spouse with open work permit. Or if you're in a college, right? Only those with a master's and a PhD. Now let's go ahead. Now the quote is, international students are vital to Canada and enrich our community. As such, we have an obligation to ensure that they have access to the resources they need for an enriching academic experience. In Canada today, this isn't always the case. Today, we are now seeing additional measures to protect a system that has become so lucrative that it has opened a path for its abuse. Enough is enough. Through the decisive measures announced today, we are striking the right balance for Canada and ensuring the integrity of our immigration system, while setting students up for the success they hope for. This is coming from the Honorable Mark Miller, the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Now, let's look at the quick facts they say here. So in the coming months, we will continue to work to provide clear pathways to permanent residence for students with in-demand skills and explore new options to better transition international students to the labor force. So basically, they're looking for a good way to get people, international students to get PR, people that have in-demand skills, I guess. So if you have skills, I guess that's a good thing. So it says the department has introduced several measures recently to make sure that the international student program works for incoming students as well as the whole country, as well as the country as a whole, including. Now, first of all, let's see what they're saying. So on January 1st, which is the first of this year, right, the cost of living requirement for study permit applicants was updated to better reflect the true cost of living in Canada and help prevent student vulnerability and exploitation. So let's look at what the cost of living requirement is. So I'm going to open this. What is the new thing that they've updated? Because you can see that we have to click on this, right? So basically, they've done something again. So let's see what they did. So this is taking me to the proof of financial support. So if you're coming into Canada now, right? Let me go back to this place. It says that for study permit applicant. So if you're applying for a study permit, right? This is for you. So by the way, this site shows all of the requirements, all of the documents you need to apply for your study permit. So, but it took me to the proof of financial support, right? So that's where we want to dwell on. So basically, let's go through this together. So basically, if you're coming to Canada for a study permit, right? So this is what it's saying, right? So it says you must prove that you can support yourself and the family members who come with you while you're in Canada. So if you're coming to Canada with a family member as well, this is something that you need to look at. Or if you're coming by yourself as well, it applies to both. So it says you can prove your funds with. So it doesn't mean that you have to show everything. No, you can show all if you have. You can show some. You can show one. You can show two. It just depends on what applies to you. So it says if you have a Canadian bank account in your name, you show that. If you have a GIC thing, you show that. If you have a proof of a student loan or education loan from a bank, bank statement for I think this hasn't changed. I think this is still what they talked about. This is still what they had before. Your bank statement for the past 4 months, your bank drafts converted to Canadian dollars, the proof that you've paid your tuition and housing fees, right? A letter from a person or school giving you money, the proof of funding paid from within Canada. If you have a scholarship, you show that as well. If your country uses foreign exchange controls, you must prove that you will be allowed to export funds, all of those things, right? So I think this is where the new thing is. So you look at this minimum funds needed to support yourself as a student and family members who come with you. So you can see this. It says all province except Quebec. So this doesn't apply to Quebec. In case you're coming to Quebec, it doesn't apply to Quebec, but it applies to every other province. So now, I guess the one for Quebec is here. So if you're in Quebec, look at this requirement. So, but let's look at this one. So it says before January 1st. Remember, this was implemented January 1st, right, of this year. Before January 1st, 2024, this was what it was, right? They said if you're coming to Canada as a student, you would need to provide $10,000 amount of funds required per year. So you need to show that you can support yourself by showing at least $10,000 per year for living expense and all of those things, right? And if you have a family member, let me be like a spouse, you show extra $4,000. And if you have another spouse, a dependent, maybe a child or someone else, you show an additional $3,000, making $17,000. Isn't that right? So this is what it says. Example: if you and two family members want to come to to a province other than Quebec for a year, you would need, for living expense alone, you can see living expenses $10,000 for the student, living expense $4,000 for the first family member, and for the second one $3,000. So making it $17,000. And this was before January 1 of 2024 this year. Now let's see what has happened after January 1st. So now it has changed. So they've increased it to $20,000, up thereabout, for one person. So they said number of family members, including yourself, the applicant. So if you're just you coming, you need to show proof of fund of $20,000 above, thereabouts. And then if you're two, you need to show $25,000. If you're three, 31. You can see all of that. It says if you're more than 7 people, each additional family member you should show $5,000 additional. If you're more than that person, you need to show for each additional family member, each of them you should show, including plus this, right? You show additional. I think that's what they mean, right? So for example, let's look at the example. If you and two family members want to come to a province other than Quebec for a year, you would need to show $31,583 for living expense. So this is all the money you need to show per year for living expense. So this is the new thing they've done now, right? Let's go back to this. So it says on January 1st, 2024, the cost of living requirement for study permit applicants was updated to better reflect the true cost of living, because of course the cost of living in Canada has increased. I think in everywhere in the world it has increased. So it can't be $10,000 anymore. It is now $20,635 for one person. If you have a family member, it's gonna increase. If you have more, it's gonna increase. So go through all of this. I'm going to put a link of all of these things I'm talking about in the description box so you can go read them by yourself, right? So just take note of that. So let's go to the second one. We're still on the quick facts, right? Since December 1st, 2023, last year, post-secondary designated learning institutions have been required to confirm every letter of acceptance submitted by an applicant outside of Canada directly with IRCC. Now, this is interesting because I remember in my video I uploaded recently, someone asked me this question, that why are they asking the school to verify? And I'm like, I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I was like, I didn't understand why she was asking me that, because that wasn't there for us then, right? So now I understand now. So it started December 1st of last year that the DLI, that's the school we're applying to, would have to confirm your letter of acceptance, right, that you submitted to IRCC, because some people can forge the letter of acceptance actually. So there's a way they confirm it. So the school will confirm that this person has been accepted by our school, they'll confirm it directly with IRCC. So it says this enhanced verification process protects prospective students from fraud and ensures that study permits are issued based only on genuine letters of acceptance, right? This is just also to help people coming in, right? And then it says in 2024, we intend to implement targeted pilots aimed at helping underrepresented cohorts of international students pursue their studies in Canada. So people that identify as underrepresented, right? This is also, they want to try to also help them, in this year. So that's all the new thing. You can see contacts, if you have questions, people that you need to contact and stuff like that. So that's the new rule that has been implemented, for international students in this year. You can even see the title says Canada to stabilize growth and decrease number of new international student permits issued to approximately 360,000 for 2024. Right? So yeah, the decrease is 35%. It's not so exciting for some people for the most part, but I'm sure everybody's going to be fine. We're all going to be good. Just obey the instructions as much as you can. If you want to come into Canada, remember there are also different processes you can use. You don't have to come in as a student if you don't want to. You can come in as a worker. You can come in through work permit. You can come in through permanent resident. There's no ban on that. It's still gonna be okay, right? So you don't have to pursue the study visa or the study route if you don't need to study. So this is basically just to they want to do this because they found that people are coming in to study when they don't want to study and they run away from studying. So if you want to avoid all of that, if you want to come to Canada, just avoid, just don't stress yourself about work, about study permit if you don't need to, if you don't want to have it, basically. And I think they want to also improve Canada's system by getting more masters and PhD students, right? So apply for a master's program. It's 2 years. Why not just apply for it and come, and then you don't have to have, you can come in with your spouse and open work permit. You can apply for the PGWP, yeah, for 3 years. So if you can apply for a master's program or a PhD program, and you're good. So yeah, that's all this video is about. So that's all. I hope this video has helped somebody. If you're wondering what the new rule is, now you know. If you have more questions, you can go and read the site. I'll leave the link in the description box. Well, yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps somebody. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Please share as well. Bye.